Apollo is a character from my childhood who undoubtedly had boatloads of aura, which is fitting for a rival of Zatch Bell and Kiyo more specifically. Today we are going to talk about their first encounter and what it means going forward with the rest of the story. If you enjoyed these Zatch Bell videos, please comment, leave likes, subscribe, and let's hop right into it. Starting with episode 24 in the anime, or level 59, the Free Spirit in the manga, we are introduced to a new competitor for the Demon King throne, Apollo and his Momoto partner Rops. Apollo kind of behaves like a hippie, or like the chapter title suggests, a free spirit, and he is admiring the clouds in this lackadaisical introduction, wondering why humans do not have wings. In Zatch Bell Gamer, I told you, bro, Zatch will learn to fly by the end of the story. Just mark my words, the evidence is already piling up. Apollo allows his ladybug Momoto to take the lead and set the path he will follow. However, do not be fooled by Rop's unassuming appearance. Do not judge a book by its cover. No pun intended. Rops has been active in this battle for Momoto King, whether Apollo wants to or not. Cutting to Mochinoki City, Kiyo is contemplating the benefits of having Ponygon around. Ponygon is really more like a pet than a Momoto partner, and is making a mess of Kiyo's home. In the manga, some NPC kid asks Kiyomaro for directions to this toy shop, which actually could be a reference to the author's original idea for Zatch Bell. Originally, Raikou wanted the story to be about toys that came to life essentially, but in the anime it is Suzy who is walking across the road without looking first. Side note, the author also loves this traffic gimmick as well, it seems, which is pretty funny. But the oncoming car is miraculously lifted into the air by these ropes with hooks on them. We will come to know this as a spell, Rigoron, one of the standard spells Apollo goes to. I'm assuming this is a pretty low-level spell, but effective nonetheless. Apollo walks off the scene before he can be noticed, but Kiyomaro witnessed the whole thing go down right in front of him, and he obviously has knowledge of the demon books, so he pursues Apollo to learn more. Eventually, Kiyomaro catches up to Apollo and is trying to sneakily hide from him as he is putting on a concert in the park. Apollo is showcasing his musical prowess by playing a menagerie of instruments for the young ones in Mochinoki City. Throughout the episodes we'll be covering today, Suzy has some filler roles, but unfortunately she isn't really here for this in the manga. Anyways, after enjoying this impromptu concert in the park, Kiyo tries to slip away before Apollo notices. He can tell Apollo isn't evil, so he'd rather not fight him. But Apollo has some crazy observation honky. Not only did he notice Kiyo, but he noticed the book in Kiyomaro's backpack, which was never visible. Apollo asks Kiyo what color his book is, and then offers up the color of his own book, cerulean blue. This whole moment was pretty hype for Apollo. He obviously has some different stuff going on. Maybe Rops indicated a book user was nearby, but Rops can't really communicate verbally with Apollo. Remember, these characters are supposed to be humans, but from time to time we get some superhuman feats. It is what it is. Luckily for Kiyo, Apollo is a free spirit and just wants to travel in peace. He doesn't really care about the battle to decide the Demon King, which I'm sure you can guess is unappealing to his Momoto partner. In my opinion, Kiyomaro is the one who propels Apollo forward in his commitment to this battle he doesn't care about. Before we get there, Apollo introduces himself as the heir of a small financial conglomerate in America who's traveling the world before he has to take responsibility for the company. He met Rops on his journey, and ever since then, there has been an endless stream of challengers. The Momoto he fought in the past are pretty interesting as well. He fought this snake Kairyu-shin like Momoto, a golem crusader kind of Momoto, and it seems he fought Robnos as well. I don't believe he fought Robnos in London, but regardless, Apollo was able to shake all of these competitors off without burning their books. He doesn't have any desire to fight all 100 Momoto that have been sent to the human world, and Kiyomaro questions why he is traveling with Rops then, if he has no desire to fight. But Apollo praises Rops' cute aesthetic, I agree, and says his demon power can come in handy sometimes, although he does not really need it. Apollo then flips the question on Kiyomaro, and Kiyomaro explains how Zatch saved him from his depression, and now he wants to make Zatch the Demon King, and more specifically a kind king, which shocks Apollo. Before Kiyo can get away to attend to his priorities at home, Apollo takes this opportunity to challenge Kiyomaro. Apollo can sense the maturity of Kiyo, and realizes that both their Momoto will vanish in due time, so there's no time like the present for Apollo and Kiyo to have a Momoto battle. Level 60, Untold Power, starts with Kiyomaro fuming on his walk home, recalling all that Apollo said to him and wondering why he wants to fight all of a sudden. as he stumbles upon Zatch and Ponygon trying to rebuild the brick wall in front of his home. However, they are trying to cement the bricks with glue instead of concrete. I didn't realize that Zatch Bell was a glue kid, but it fits, I guess. Ponygon runs off to Zatch's dismay as he needs Ponygon for a step stool to reach the higher layers of bricks. Kiyomaro was left wondering if they can even compete with Apollo, because Zatch is such a spaz and Apollo has some mysterious power unknown to Kiyomaro. This observation hockey, ultra instinct, N-type ability to avoid danger or be more aware of the world around him. However, Apollo holds Kiyo in high regards as well. He respects the mature nature Kiyo has, and he really is excited to battle him. Kiyo tries to avoid this fight one final time when he stands face to face in this quarry with Apollo. Apollo is ready for a Mumoto fight though. He tells Kiyo to treat this like any other fight he's had, that the circumstances are irrelevant, and Apollo starts talking smack, saying it would be tough for Kiyo to make Zatch the Demon King if he destroys their book. Rops hurls a large boulder at Zatch and Kiyo to get things started, but Kiyo cleanly dismantles this attack with a Zakaru. Apollo compliments Kiyo on his cool lightning ability, then calls for another Riguron the next instant. Kiyo equates Apollo's nonchalant attitude to someone who is simply playing a game, and goes for an incapacitating spell right away to prevent this battle from going on any longer. He calls for another Zakaru to break this boulder, but before Rops can hurl it at them, causing the boulder to crumble and fall on top of Apollo and his Momoto partner. Apollo has way too much Ultra Instinct though, and dodges all of the debris unfazed. All of the debris except one baseball-sized rock, which he uses to separate Kiyo from his source of magical power, his red book. His strategy is completed by positioning Rops on the backside of Kiyomaro to prevent him from reclaiming his book so quickly. He warns Kiyo to take this battle more seriously, and next time, Apollo will destroy his book without hesitation. Level 61, Kiyomaro's Strength, starts with Apollo allowing Kiyo to take his book back. Like I mentioned, he told Kiyo to take this fight more seriously. Maybe he felt a little disrespected, but this was a little Mickey for me. Sure, Apollo isn't trying to kill Kiyomaro or anything like that, but this dropped the tension a little bit, at least make Kiyo work for it, you know what I mean? For all intents and purposes, this was a freebie from Apollo to Kiyomaro. Kiyomaro thinks this is the toughest enemy he comes across, which is a little bit disrespectful to Sherry and Brago, but I get it. Apollo is pushing Kiyomaro's buttons, he's flexing. He's flexing a lot right now. Apollo continues the battle with another Riguron, but this time, Rops is hurling multiple boulders at Zatch and Kiyo. It makes sense now why they are fighting in a quarry. Apollo chose a battlefield that would synergize with Rops' ability. Meanwhile, there isn't much metal around for Kiyo to make use of his third spell, Jakirador. Apollo didn't know what Kiyo's power was until they started fighting, but Kiyo calls for a Rashi Rudo to reflect the boulders back at his opponents. Apollo uses some future sight now and carries Rops out of the way to safety. Yeah, Apollo is getting wanked in the showcase here. Best human in the series so far. Kiyo is getting sick of all this Apollo wank and calls for the fourth spell, Bows a Cargo, but it's crickets. It does not work now, even though it worked in Lungin, and this will be explained by the end of this battle in a very fitting way in my opinion. Apollo thinks Kiyo was trying to bluff because he didn't sense any power from the book, but Kiyo is actually just ignorant. Apollo starts to dismiss Kiyomaro and launches more boulders at him with Riguron. Meanwhile, Kiyomaro is overthinking everything. He concludes Apollo has a special intuition, Ultra Instinct, and is about to be crushed by a giant boulder on some Obito shit, but Zatch Bell pulls up on some Pokemon shit and uses Headbutt. W-mans. Zatch is calling for orders and Kiyomaro gets his head back in the game with a Super Saiyan 3 type yell, leaving everyone feeling awkward. Zatch and Apollo have a very real reaction to Kiyomaro screaming like he's in an anime, like he's in an edit. Kiyomaro is ready to use his experience to his advantage, and the real battle begins now. Kiyo kicks things off with a Zakaru, but aims slightly in front of Apollo to create a smokescreen diversion. Kiyomaro tries to snatch the cerulean book for himself, but Apollo correctly predicts Kiyo's intentions and uses a Riguron to tie his feet up. It is quite impressive how much utility Apollo is getting out of just one spell. This is a great way to show his high battle IQ in my opinion. However, Kiyo is feeling like a Doom character. He's crafting plans within plans.
Plans within plans.
And positions Zatch behind Apollo to try and get a clean hit off with Zakaru. Rops is able to propel Apollo out of the way, but Apollo begins admiring the harmony between Zatch and Kiyo. The synchronization of their hearts and minds are creating a teamwork which is defying what Apollo would expect, not to mention their burning determination to win, which is kind of Mickey, but honestly, just believing you can do something, believing in yourself that you will be successful, can go a big way. so I actually feel what Apollo is saying. Apollo also mentions how he can feel Kiyomaro's red book growing in power the further along they get in this battle. Kiyomaro targets Rops with a Zakaru and lands a pretty clean blow on Rops. Even though Zakaru is the first spell they learned, it does seem to me it can have varying levels of power, which I think is pretty much confirmed in this battle. The remark Apollo said about the red book's powers growing over time lends itself to this, and thematically it makes sense with the explanation we get, but Apollo recalls meeting Kiyo and his conversation to make Zatch the Demon King. I would say this definitely sparked something in Apollo. It was a catalyst for him. Kiyo's conviction wore off on him, and for all we know, this is the first time he's ever seen Rops damaged at all. Rops does seem to fall into the kid/animal category of Momoto. Technically, all the Momoto are supposed to be kids, but some are more grisly or ambiguous. The humans in the human world can mistake a kid like Momoto for an actual human kid. I mention all of this to say, visually, it is like a real kid is being attacked when Kiyo uses Zakaru on Rops, and this propels Apollo to use their best spell, Dino Rigoron, which is more like chains with anchors rather than ropes with hooks, so the lifting power is substantially more. Level 62, the most powerful spell, starts with Apollo struggling to use this gargantuan spell, and the large boulder above him is actually swaying, which is pretty sketchy. Apollo reaffirms Rops that he will not falter in the middle of this spell, and he will make him the next Demon King, which is actually done well in the anime, I would say. Obviously, he had no interest in this at first, but after meeting Kiyomaro, his mindset has been changed. Kiyo realizes he will have to use the fourth spell to match Apollo's determination, even though it failed before, which is ballsy for Kiyomaro. I like that shit. Bowser Kerriga, the fourth spell, engulfs this monstrous boulder and destroys it in this epic final clash. Although the fourth spell eviscerated this giant fuck-off boulder, both Apollo and Kiyo are left exhausted and unable to move. Apollo offers the draw, and Kiyo accepts with the caveat that they'll fight someday when they're stronger. No spoilers, even though this is an old series, but I'm not sure Apollo is going to get exactly what he asked for here. However, Apollo gives Kiyomaro some amazing information, perhaps because he is the one that instigated this fight, but he tells Kiyo that by the time he used his last spell, the power of his red book was like that of a fully charged battery. Kiyomaro is confused because heart energy is supposed to deplete over the course of a battle, but Apollo offers a hypothesis that perhaps the red book is holding on to the tension of a battle, which Kiyomaro can tap into at the very end. A lot of good stuff here. I enjoy this vague introduction to perhaps another power system, but more than that, I appreciate the diversity being built up between the different colored books. The statement gives some deeper meaning to the color of the books, as well as the thematic relevance of Kiyo's book behaving like a battery juxtaposed to Zatch's lightning powers. That makes a lot of sense to me. We end this chapter with Kiyomaro inviting Apollo back to his place, which Apollo accepts. But on his walk through town, Rops decides to head another direction opposite of Kiyomaro's house, which Apollo reluctantly goes along with. In the anime, we actually get the backstory of how Apollo and Rops met. Rops was actually with his brother and sister who lived in this gated community, not in a good way either. They were pretty much in this isolate kind of place where you can't leave. I think North Korea would be a decent comparison, but Apollo came across this place on his journey and would have been trapped if not for Rops awakening into his magic. This is filler, I guess, but it also reaffirms that not anyone can just read the demon books. The cerulean book started glowing when Apollo needed the power to escape. Also, some anime filler, I would guess. Lori reminds Zatch of his conviction to become a kind king before Kiyo and Zatch head to the quarry, which is a nice detail. But guys, this was a great Momoto battle. The nostalgia was high for this one. I definitely remember this from my childhood, and it was pretty hype back then. Rops is a cutie with an interesting power, and Apollo is literally godlike. I see where he gets his name from. Let me know what you would like to see next. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a great day. Thanks again, everyone.